My first story I thought I would share with you is my first day on the job in Augusta, Georgia, working as a multimedia journalist. For any of you who don't know what an MMJ is, it's somebody who goes out with a video camera and shoots their entire story. So they conduct all the interviews, they use a tripod, kind of like I'm doing right now. They use a mic and they drive to a location and then they shoot a whole story themselves. Then they edit it together themselves on the computer after writing it, and then they go and step in front of the camera and share it with people on live TV. So it's pretty hardcore. There's a lot of MMJs in the news world all over the country right now. So shout out to my MMJs. Here's my first day on the job in Augusta, Georgia. Was many years ago. They sent me to cover this story about a woman who had a bee infestation in her shed. So she called up animal control and was like, yo, there's a lot of bees in my backyard. I think my shed is infested. Can you please help me out? So this bee guy came to go take care of that, and they were like, hey, Christine, you should go film this story. And they gave me a map on a piece of paper. This was before GPSs were a thing. This was before we had GPSs on our phone. They just gave me a map that said, go from point A to B. So when's the last time you used that? Yeah, I used a map to get to a place in South Carolina that I had never been before in my life. It took an hour and a half for me to get there in a vehicle that I had never driven before in my life, with a bunch of equipment that I've never actually used on the job before. And there was a story that I needed to produce for the 5 o'clock show, which I was just like, oh my gosh, this is so much stuff to do. And I couldn't actually edit it until I got back to the station. So I had to drive there, shoot it, and then drive back. And again, I was using a map. So if I missed a turn, I just had to be like, wait, it feels like I might have gone too far. Totally out of my comfort zone, but still I got in the car, I started driving, and then this crazy thing happened. I'm just driving along the road, just trying to make sure that I get to where I need to be. And this car in front of me, I see them like make this like crazy like zoom out to get into like the other lane, and I'm like, what are they doing? They like go out of the lane in front of me, and what I see is they were trying to dodge a giant deer carcass that was in the middle of the road. And so they merged into the lane to the right. I'm like, shoot, I need to merge over too. But then there was a car coming, so I couldn't merge over to where the car was. So I just looked at this deer, and I remembered Mr. Rinko. He's the guy who taught me how to drive, and he said if there's ever an animal in your path, just to go through it. I think he was talking about squirrels. But anyway, so I just plowed through. I'm sorry, animal lovers, this hurt me too. I was scared, I didn't know what to do, but there was nothing I could do but go through it. So I did, and then there was a smell. This horrible smell. I didn't understand what it was. I had dodged part of the deer, but again, I don't know if you know this, but deers emit a smell when they're hit. Yeah, it's bad. I stopped at the next gas station just so I could check and see if there was any damage to the vehicle, if there was anything that happened. I don't think I realized necessarily that the smell was correlated to the deer at that point. I had no experience with deers, and I never went hunting for a deer. I don't know, I'm just a girl from upstate New York. And I see there's nothing really wrong with the car. There's just, sorry, there's some hair. there's just like, there's some bits. It's gross. So anyway, I told the guy at the gas station when I went in, and he was super sweet, and he like came out with a hose and he sprayed it down, and he's like, oh, that smell. And the smell was the deer. I had no idea that that happened, but it does. And I don't know why I didn't think that. So get back in the car, I drive to the location, I shoot this really fun story, and what was really exciting was there was actually a 10 feet tall honeycomb beehive that was filled with honey. So the woman who owned the home ended up getting a bunch of honey after the bees were removed. And then I went back and I got the story together, and you know, it all worked out. Everything worked out just fine for my first newscast. It was just like, whoa, That was crazy. I can't believe all of that just happened. That was my first day as an MMJ in Augusta, Georgia. It was a crazy story, but I definitely went way out of my comfort zone and followed my dream, which was storytelling, and there you go. So thank you guys for listening. I hope you enjoyed my story. Go out there, do something badass, and tell me about it. Write it in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe. I'll see you next time on Go Bam.